Yes, let's start over again. Okay. Hi, I'm Troy Lambert, and this is Jenna S. Brown, and we are talking about breaking news. It broke yesterday, so not really breaking news, but
Publishing news.
you know,
Breaking publishing news because we
breaking
don't talk about
publishing
the other
news.
news.
Yeah,
It
we
makes
don't
us
talk about
sad.
the other news. Yeah, that just makes me have to drink more and eat more brownies. Anyway, so but we're talking about the demise of yet another Kindle program. Do we want to call them programs? Kindle offering
Yeah,
called Kindle Vella.
program's a good one.
Called Kindle Vella. If you haven't heard of Kindle Vella, you're probably not alone. If you're an author, though, you've probably heard about it, and you may not have been one of the people that tried it. And I admit, like I tried it, I made a few $1,000s off it when it first came out, and then as bonuses went away and things changed with Kindle Vella, I moved away from it because it was no longer profitable. So, anyway, so first of all, Jana,
As we
tell
do.
us a little bit. Well, let's explain what Kindle Vella was, and then we'll talk a little bit more about our experiences with it and where it might be going, or where it is going.
Fantastic. We can do that. So Kindle Vella goes back to serialization of novels and other content as a model. This is a model that has been around for freaking ever. I remember as a kid, we would get a newspaper and there was a serialized story in that. It was a cowboy western romance and it was fantastic. And it was always just these little columns inside this newspaper buried in there somewhere. And I would get really mad at my dad when he would take off with the newspaper before I'd had a chance to snag the pages that had the serial story in it, because it only came out once a week. And if I missed it, then I had to get it the next week and try to piece together these several paragraphs that I had missed between one and the other. So this is not a new thing. There are a lot of places out there that have been doing it for a long time, have been doing it for pay, places like Radish, places like Royal Road that we'll talk about a little bit later. So it's been out there as a model. And Amazon is really, really known for looking at what are other people doing in the publishing space, and should we put out an option of that ourselves? So like Troy was saying, they've tried a lot of different things, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But Vella was there. We're going to provide a platform for authors who want to release books by chapter, and they're going to bring on that market of readers who want that serialized form. And the idea is that it's something short enough that you can read it in line at the grocery store, or when you're on the subway, or when you're in on the bathroom, because we all know we take our phones into the potty. Let's not pretend that that's not a thing. And so they were just long enough that you could read one section and have that be your session, and then you could go back to work, go back to what you're doing, and the next time you had 10 minutes you could read that again. And that's why serials work, is they're continually feeding that beast of these really short snippets. It's written in a very particular style. You don't write serials exactly the same way you write novels, because it always needs to end with that cliffhanger that pulls them in. And, it's like the old Batman things. Well, Batman fall off the cliff? Tune in next week and you'll find out. Serials are built that same way. And so Vella was Amazon's attempt to bring authors who were doing serials into the Amazon ecosystem, and to say, do it through us. And then once you had the whole story out, you could get paid for it in Vella. Then you could always wrap it into a book format and put it on KDP or on KU. And then you could also sell it as a book. So it was supposed to be this whole process that helped you both to get the book out for serial readers, but then also have it for a wider market. It was not a bad idea, but bad things happened. What kind of
Yeah.
bad things happened, Troy?
Well, first of all, Amazon did one of their usual things, and there was a certain amount of exclusivity that you had to have to Amazon, which is not the way serial authors and readers usually work. Like, they want to be able to find things everywhere. Mistake number two is they offered it only to the US market, and the US market is not known for consuming serials nearly as much as the international market. This has taken off much more in Europe, and specifically China and India, where those
Japan.
things are, the demand is much, much higher. So for this type of thing, but they didn't offer it there. So for authors, it's exclusive to Amazon, and I can't have it on these other services that actually offer things worldwide. And then, of course, then you had to wait 30 days after your last episode before you could make it into a novel and put it on Amazon. And so this exclusivity thing was part of the issue as well. And then they really just dropped the ball with marketing and things like that. Like readers didn't even know it existed. You'd mention it to readers, they'd be like, "What is that? I never even heard of it." And oddly enough, you could not read Kindle Vella stories on a Kindle device,
So weird.
which seemed so weird to me the whole time. It seemed so weird. But like I say, a few of us, we made a few $1,000s when it first started out, and they were offering bonuses. Basically, if you just contributed and put some content up, they would pay you a bonus. But we didn't really make money on royalties from it, like people buying credits and reading stories. The way it worked, we didn't really make royalties on it. But I made bonuses, so I'm like, who cares? But I knew from the start that eventually that is not a sustainable model. Like I have to, at some point, Amazon has to make money on this deal, right? And they're not doing it. So anyway, so yeah,
and that was a big deal because sorry.
I was just going to say, did you play around with them?
You had to buy tokens.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes. I think a lot of authors did. Those who've been around for a long time at least dabbled with almost all the weird things that Amazon did. I wrote an Amazon World story for them. I was involved in Amazon Scout. They do all these weird things. And most of us go, well, I'll at least poke something at that. But we learn at a certain point not to put all of our eggs in any particular basket. And even within Amazon, not all of the baskets, same kind of thing. So yeah, I poked at it. And again, you made money in the early days, but most of it was based on bonuses, which was based on reads. And so there were a lot of groups put together where authors were reading each other's stuff and were pushing their readers to read each other's stuff. And when you got some synergy there were people who made some good money. But even the way they set up the money, it wasn't just, you couldn't use your I'm classic with doing the Amazon thing where it says, if you wait and get your delivery pushed out a few days, we'll give you $1.50 to go towards an electronic purchase. This is me all the time. If I have to order something and they give me the opportunity, I'll push it to Friday and you'll give me $2 to spend on books. Yay. But you couldn't use that on Vella stories because you had to buy tokens, and then tokens would buy you a certain number of words. So depending on how many words were in the chapter, you might not get an entire episode without having to pay for more tokens. Readers found it confusing. Authors found it really confusing. And so it was just from the get-go, it looked like it was just set up to fail. And I've talked about this, that I remember being at a conference, and I believe it was Dave Chesson was talking about how this had been somebody's brainchild who then left Amazon before it got pushed out the door. And so somewhere this program lost its champion that would have said, oh yeah, we have to market it. We've got to make sure that it works in a way that makes a lot of sense. Do we attach it to Kindle Unlimited and their subscription service? Because I had that question from people. They're like, can we read Vella stories if we have KU? And it's like, it'd be a good idea. Or if you had like a KU Plus that would do both Kindle KU stories and Vella stories. So I have to imagine somewhere someone had thought all of this through, but then if they weren't there anymore and you lose your champion and your developers move on to other stuff, you get what happened to Vella, which kind of just lingered for a few years, getting worse and worse every time that they touched it. And now we're here. So Troy, what do we know? When is it closing down? What can authors do if they're in the middle of it?
The official is, I believe, December is when you can stop, when you have to stop contributing as an author. Like you can't publish anymore after December. And then it will shut down for readers and authors in February of 2025, is my understanding. Now, who knows? The problem with that is, of course, that most authors are just going to stop contributing now. Like, or relatively quickly, they'll finish up whatever series they've got going on there, and they'll stop contributing now. And CJ has joined us. Thank you, CJ. Awesome to have you here. Ta-da! That is so incredible. Anyway,
we're mid-rant.
We're mid-rant, but we will invite you into the rant. But anyway, so it ends in December. Basically for authors, a lot of authors will probably stop now or finish their current series or whatever. For readers, even though, like if you have tokens, you have to use them by February of 2025. Otherwise, basically, I don't know that Amazon will give you refunds. I don't know what that'll look like, but basically you won't be able to read the Kindle stories anymore, which gives you basically 2 months after authors theoretically stop contributing. to basically read the stories, consume whatever you're going to consume there, and then move on. It does mean, this is my personal opinion, I think it does mean opportunity for writers to take that IP somewhere else and do something else with it, primarily because now you have some freedom that you did not have with Kindle Vella. So yeah, those bonuses were nice when they came in, and there were some steamy romance authors and people who had built some great following there, but I think you can just take that and build that following somewhere else. The issue with Kindle Vella is, as with all things Amazon, is you don't have a list of those people who are reading your stuff. So you don't, we preach all the time, your website, your email list, and this is the exact reason why, is if you're doing this on Substack, you have a list of emails. If you're doing it on Amazon, you don't. You don't get access to that information. So, CJ, did you play around with Kindle Vella at all?
No, I shied away from it because it seemed, I don't know, well, first of all, I wasn't writing those short stories. I'm far too long-winded, and I can't, every time I try to write a short story, I end up inevitably complicating the plot to the extent that I cannot then make it short. So my 2 tries in that ended up in series. So I was like, womp womp, that's not going to work. So I did not ever attempt it, but I do know that there were some authors, like you said, steamy authors, who really made a killing doing it because they built that following. So I'm feeling bad. I'm feeling bad for people who established themselves there but didn't plan accordingly. When you put all your eggs in one basket, it's why a lot of us are either going wide or doing direct sales, having our own website, or like you said, Substack, because now folks are in trouble. And if you didn't build your mailing list in the process of building your following on Kindle Vella, that's a bummer too. That's a bummer too. So
yeah, it is.
Well, which all leads us to, it all leads us to now that we're reaching out to our author friends here, what options do serial authors have? So what are some places they can go to that we feel good about recommending? And how do you make that transition smooth? If you haven't been gathering up those names, how do you do it now? Because you've got a window where Vella is still going to exist. What can authors do, and where can they go? Ideas, Troy?
Oh man! So first of all, in the back of every kit and every Vella thing that you push from now until whenever you, as an author, quit doing that, have something that is a link to sign up for your email list, so people can determine where they can figure out where you go. Like if you haven't done this already, which you probably should have been doing all along, but you haven't done it already, do it now. Now, what's the conversion rate you will get? I have no freaking idea. It's really hard to tell with Amazon type things. Sometimes you get people that'll follow you, sometimes you don't. Some people may just give up after that. It's really hard to tell, but it seems like people are still going to be going for serial fiction. So wherever you're going to move, put it as a link to your email list so that wherever you end up moving, you can tell the readers where you went, essentially. That's probably the most important thing, is try to get all that information if you can. It's going to be challenging. Not everybody's going to follow you, but get as much of that information as you can. And then there's other platforms now. You can finish your current stuff. We kind of talked about this a little bit. You can finish your current stuff and put it in KU as a book. Okay, that it works. It's not going to satisfy those serial readers, but at least somebody's going to read it, a novel or whatever. But there are other serial platforms. CJ, do you know some other serial platforms? I'm going to put you on the spot. We kind of have a doc with some in there, but I'm going to put you on the spot.
Off the top of my head, no. So thanks for putting me on the spot there.
You betcha.
I mean,
let me help you out.
Yeah. And Inkit, but those aren't paid places, So that's where you can set up stuff and do serial stuff, but you're not getting paid. People are following you and then finding a link in your stuff and then you're selling directly. You've got a place to sell. So I would be interested, because I was put on the spot. Jana, you want to tell us? Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
you're welcome. But Wattpad, to be fair, Wattpad is something. There's ways to monetize Wattpad, so you're not wrong. You're not wrong there, but it is not a paid platform in and of itself.
Right,
Anyway,
upfront.
but yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of the thing is, first a note on if you're going to put it in KU. KU still exists. Please remember that KDP is that putting out an ebook. You've got paperbacks that can go through that. That's KDP. KU is the monthly subscription, and so your readers pay a certain amount each month, and then if your books are in KU, they can check them out like a lending library. They can check out 20 at a time, read them, put them back in, check out another one, and they can do that as much as they want based on that monthly fee. That's Kindle Unlimited. That still exists. You also see it called Kindle Select in your back end, in the Amazon back end, because that sounded really, really weird there for a minute.
It did. I was wondering. It got dark in here, and I was wondering what happened. Anyway, go ahead.
It was bad. Anyway, so you could do that. When you take something that's serialized and you put it into KU, you need to make sure that you go through it and make sure that it reads like a novel. Sometimes what you want to do is put a note in there that says, this was first released in serialized form. I have chosen to keep that serialized form, because that's going to tell people this is the kind of story that you're going to get. Because otherwise, if you don't go back through, a lot of people, they'll go back through and they'll smooth everything out so the chapters run really nicely together and all that kind of neat thing. Other people just release it the way that it was, but now it's in KU in book form. And that's fine. There's still an audience for it, but it helps you put in a note that says this was released this way. And on purpose, it does have some of these breaks and this, that, and the other, because that works in a serialized form. So a quick note there. But other things you can go, we talked about Wattpad, Inkit. Royal Road is particularly good for romance and for lit RPG. It is kind of the home of where the lit RPG thing started before it exploded. That one is another one where you put the content up for free, but you can drive them to Patreon, where you can be putting up content. So Patreon's a really good one. You can drive readers to KU to say, okay, you're getting a chapter at a time, but if you want the entire book, it's over on KU. So you can use places like this to also drive traffic when the free ones. Radish is one that's been around for a long time. It's, again, very good for romance and for paranormal romance. Substack has really jumped up as an option for doing blogs, for doing serialization of fiction, because you can put that behind a paywall and you can have tiers. Ream has been an option, but just word of warning, weird crap has been happening with Ream. So I don't know that I can throw my opinion behind it. I know it exists. I know some people are okay with it. But that's a good word of warning for all of these. And we tell you this all the time. When you look for someplace that you're going to use as a distributor or a Shopify store or anything you're going to use to improve this career of yours, read the fine print. Because there's a lot of these that have ways you can monetize, but a lot of times the contracts that go with it are questionable. There's been problems with Inkit. There's been problem with Wattpad. There's been problems with Radish. There's been problems with Substack. So buyer beware. Do the research. The ones I've had the best experience with here myself is KU, Substack, and Royal Road. Those are the ones that I can say I have at least put stuff on and I have seen positive return. But there's a lot out there. But you want to know that, this is still serialized form. That market exists. And they're a slightly different group than those people who innately read KU and those people who innately read wide. So if you already have that style, keep going after that market, because that's a great market and it's not as tapped as it should be. But just know that they're different. All right. What else do we want to talk about? Go, Troy.
I would just add to that there are new markets that are going to emerge as a result of this. Inevitably, when Amazon kills something, if it was something worth pursuing, then there will be new markets. Ream has become very questionable because of some of the ways things are happening there. So a lot of authors have moved away from them, but there will be other alternatives that will emerge that will be subscription type services that you can put your serialized fiction on. And they just will continue to grow and explode. And probably one or two of them will gain a huge amount of traction as soon as Kindle Vella ends, because those authors are going to look to go somewhere and those readers are going to look to go somewhere. So just keep your eye on the market, keep your eye on the industry. This is one of those things that whenever this happens with something with Amazon, we see somebody else jump in. We've seen it with Audible. Audible's been around for a really long time. Now there's all kinds of audio options because Audible doesn't work for everyone. So there's all kinds of other options available. There's a wider market things like that. So I think that's just, there will be many others. And the next thing we have on our list is, how do you make the move smooth? And the answer is, we don't know. Like, nobody knows. Like, try to gather as many email addresses as possible and make it as smooth as possible, but you're probably going to not have a perfectly soft landing if you were heavily dependent upon Kindle Vella and you move to another subscription service. There's probably going to be a little bit of a rough landing as you land in that new spot, and that's just reality. I happen to like Substack. I think it's got a lot of potential, but not for every genre. So that's the other thing to be said about that. Your thoughts, DJ?
Some people, they're going to say, okay, so I've got the people that signed up to my newsletter, easy peasy, and social media. I can let them know where I'm moving to and how, but what happens to all the people who didn't sign up, who follow me on Amazon? And the answer is, we're sorry. That's the answer. That's the answer, is that because we can't make anybody, sign up for your newsletter.
Yeah.
There are going to be plenty of people that follow you via Amazon that so the social media is going to be really important for that as well. If they weren't on your newsletter, then hopefully if they see that you dropped off, then they will go and find you. They'll go find your social media. So make sure that when you jump on social media, you are letting people know where they can find you now, the new fun things that you're doing, so that if the newsletter can't get to them, then at least they can find your Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is you're using. Make sure you use it appropriately for that. So,
yeah.
Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this is not a time to launch a new pen name. Stick with the one that they knew you on in Vella, because I've seen people talking about this. Well, maybe I'll take all of my stuff and I'll go put it under a new pen name and I'll kind of start over again, but now it will be direct, or it'll be whatever. The idea there is kind of solid if you wanted to rebrand anyway, but I would still give it at least 6 months. And in that 6 months, stay under the same name, use the same titles, use the same characters, all those things, because it's your IP. You own it. Amazon does not own your stories, okay? So when you take it down, it's still yours. You can go put it somewhere else. The exclusivity was only when it was published, distributed on Amazon. Just to be really, really clear, because I've seen confusion about that too. How, well, now Amazon owns it. They do not. It's your IP.
They don't own it. Yeah.
And hang on to that IP, hang on to those whatever username, whatever pen name you're using for at least the next 6 months, so that people can go to Google and search for you. It's why I would even put up some of the stuff on KU on Amazon, simply to have people make the connection from Vella over to you, because they can follow you as an author through your Author Central page. And that can be a way that they can at least see what you're doing. And you can put a link at the end of your Kindle version as well that says, come and join my newsletter. That will buy you time while Vella is dying, while it's meandering off into the sunset on its horse, and whatever it is, happy trails to you. So think about those kinds of things, ways that you can stay in there and yet bring them into your side, and then look at what are you going to do next and what's going to be really exciting. So do use it as a launching point to go, well, gosh, I learned that this kind of thing really worked for this audience. What's going to be my new project? How am I going to build on this? What am I going to launch my Substack with, or whatever it is that I want to do? And use this time over the holidays, especially. You've got some time in the next few months to noodle about where you want to go and how you want to do it, and really launch into 2025 as a year to make your serials shine. You'll just have to sign them somewhere else.
Yes, exactly. And last thing that we have is, we say, what will Amazon do next? And we can each weigh in on that. But I love, Jenna, I love your answers. So let's start with your answer, which is?
Yeah, only the shadow knows.
Only the
it's
shadow
like what
knows.
Secrets lie deep in the heart of men. Only the shadow knows.
Only the shadow knows.
We can't guess. So
yeah, we can't guess what's going to happen next. CJ, your thoughts on that? Any additional thoughts on that?
Well, this isn't the first time that they've tried to do Kindle Vella. I mean, there've been different forms of it, right? So I don't know if maybe they're going to rebrand and attempt to reinvent the wheel, or just, or they're just going to be like, we gave it the college try type of scenario, and then I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's as Jana said, we can only speculate.
Yeah, I just think my personal opinion is that from looking at different factors related to Amazon is seeing that the subscription models that Amazon has been using are not working as well as they would like. And so I think we're going to see some shifts in that. I don't think Kindle Unlimited is going to go away, but I think it may change a little bit. I think that Audible will definitely change. I don't think that that's profitable what it is
as it
anymore.
does.
But I think we can see that that from what Amazon earnings and the way they're reacting to different things, that the subscription models and stuff are not working for them the way they would like. They're adding ads even into Amazon Prime on their television side, things like that. So things are changing at Amazon, and I think we're going to continue to see that, and it's all profit driven. So we don't know what they're going to do next. Maybe next there'll be ads in your books on Kindle. I don't know. We'll just see
They've
what
talked about
happens.
it.
They've talked about it. It's
That
not the
has
first
been.
time that's been kicked around. So there's all kinds of things that could happen. But I think what I think from an author perspective is just realize that Amazon exclusivity is almost never the answer long term. It might be a short term answer, but it's almost never the answer long term, because what Amazon does is going to change. That's the one thing that we know, it's going to change. And you having as much control over your IP and how and when people read it is probably the most important thing, or listen to it, or whatever the case may be. Any other
That's why
last
so
thoughts?
many of us self-publish, is we want the control. And so you also don't want to give it as much as we don't want to necessarily give that control over to publishers. We don't want to give all that control over to the distributors either. Now, does that mean that tomorrow you should say, I'm taking everything off Amazon and taking my ball and going home? We're not saying that either. Amazon still controls a whole lot of the ebook space, of the audiobook space, even as a lot of other places are making inroads. So that doesn't mean cast it off, but it does mean, like Troy says, it's time to take a really good hard look at where do you want your future to be, what kinds of things do you want to get interested in, and make sure that you just have options, because we like options.
Yep, we love options. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate it. This is just a really quick catch-up video, obviously, with some breaking news. We don't normally bust in with breaking publishing news, and we promise not to break in with any breaking political news. We promise not to bring that to you. Hear no evil, speak no evil, which means basically you can't talk about politics at all, since it's all evil. That's my only comment on politics. So anyway, we will just move on. But thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. If you have any thoughts about Kindle Vella, drop them in the comments below. Again, subscribe, hit that notifications bell so you don't miss a thing. And we'll see you in whatever our next episode looks like. See you later, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye now.